Okay, so today we're going to start our sculpture unit. So in order to do that, we need to take some sculpture notes. You guys should have on your desk your sculpture worksheet, which I have here, but I also have it right here that I'm going to follow along with you guys and help you fill this out. So these are all linked into the PowerSchool document. They are listed here. So this video that I'm making right now will go here into the video notes. If you're absent or gone, then you know how to catch up. So as we start each project, we are going to be talking about uh, the the different proficiency scales that go along with that. So today we're going to cover a lot of the level 2 skill, which covers the vocabulary. And I realize this looks like a lot of vocabulary, but when we really look at it, we just have, cutting, carving, attaching, folding, bending, modeling. Those are all things that you guys know. Some of these newer terms like sculpture, relief sculpture, armature, and base, those might be new ones for you. And then for our skills, we're going to create 3D forms with sound structure. We're going to use adhesives, construction, and attachment techniques correctly. So basically, we're going to make sure that this project doesn't fall apart. And then the big one for us is to be able to help you guys start to learn how to turn a 2D plan into a 3D structure. So a lot of times in art, you can go through the process of just like winging it and trying to make a piece of art. But a lot of the time when artists do that, they struggle a lot, or they go through a lot of trial and error to figure out what works best. So to try and alleviate a little bit of that, we're going to teach you guys how to make a plan and really think through some of the problems that you might encounter before you even start building with the 3D structure. This is also due to the fact that, at Eric Ramstead, we don't have an unlimited supply of art supplies, and we can't just go to like Walmart to go get more, right? So we need to be planning our projects so that we know what could potentially happen or how to work around some of those troubleshooting areas. So that's going to be the important one for this project. And then we just want to use craftsmanship to make gallery ready art. So again, we're just working on producing high quality work, and we should be producing high quality work if we're learning all of these vocabulary terms and we're working through all of these skills. Okay, if you meet the level 2 and you master it, then you should definitely be getting a level 3, which is an A in my class. So you can plan and make a sturdy sculpture that doesn't fall apart. I know that seems very basic, but it should be a high quality project. Okay, if you're going to stretch and go above and beyond, if you're going to reach for that 4, that definitely is 100%. But that is looking at a student that's trying something new and actually having success with it. Okay, so it's not just about trying something new and having it totally fall apart. Hey, that wouldn't be a 4 level. It's actually figuring it out, right? So on to the next slide. This is kind of just a bigger version of that. Okay, the first term that we're going to talk about, it's not on your worksheet, but it's craftsmanship. So again, just talking about the quality in which a work of art is made. So when we look at this project, we can argue that it's both good craftsmanship and poor craftsmanship. It just depends on the intention of the artist, right? The nose part of that sculpture looks like it could be poor craftsmanship because maybe it's not perfect, right? But depending on the intention or even maybe the title of the artwork, that could be done really, really well if it's maybe like titled like Shattered Soul or, Scars or whatever the case is, right? So it just depends really on the intention and what you're trying to convey to your audience members, okay? So getting into our terms, so the first one under the basic sculpture vocab, it says the term here is sculpture. It's a 3-dimensional artwork made from clay, wood, stone, metal, or other found materials. So sculptures can be made out of a lot of different things, right? And then the sculptor is a person who creates artworks by modeling, carving, constructing, and assembling the materials together. So that's number 2 on your list there. Okay. Number 3 is a form, and we should know this from our elements and principles of design. So this is just another definition for you. It's an object that you can see from many sides. Okay. It has 3 dimensions: length, width, and height. Okay. A new term that we have, though, is scale. So a physical representation of an object which maintains accurate proportions compared to the original. So when they build all these big skyscrapers in New York, or in this case, it looks like Los Angeles, those architects build scale models so that they understand, how high can this building actually go, or is it going to fit in between these buildings or these blocks? So they have to do a lot of that math to figure that construction out, okay? So that would be scale, which is number 4 on your worksheet. Okay. There's just another example of scale. This is actually a bridge that you can walk across just to go to this other little island, and then you can walk back. So pretty cool to see that you can manipulate scale to, I guess, give you a bigger scale or a smaller scale. Okay. Okay, these are probably the two newest terms for you. So this is going to fill in the last two blanks for you. The first, second to last blank is the base. So that's the bottom part on which an object rests or is supported. We also call it the lowest part. So looking at this first image here, it's really easy to see where the base is. It's this platform, right? On this second one, though, it might not be as obvious. The base would actually be this mat that's sitting underneath because that represents the lowest part. It's part of the presentation of the artwork, okay? The armature, we can think of that as like the skeletal support over which the main material is molded. So it can be made out of cardboard, metal, or other found objects. I mean, it can really be made out of anything. So when we're looking at these two examples on the bottom, okay, we could address the base is going to be just this round, I guess, sole part of the shoe, that wire that runs around the base. That is the bottom part. And then the armature is actually the wire and the sculpture itself. It's kind of these pieces that have these extra pieces added on top. And then same concept here. So the armature here would be kind of like this little thin wire that's going around. And then the top piece would be this paper or this clay that's being molded over the top of it. Okay. When we look at the armature up here on this motorcycle, okay, some of these very basic structural pieces of the motorcycle you could say is the armature, but some artists could argue that the armature is even just part of the sculpture, right? So some of these very basic structures to give us that wheel would be our armature. If we think about our human body, our base is our feet, okay, and then the armature is our skeletal system that kind of holds everything up for us. Okay. Okay, looking at types of sculpture. We have two types of sculpture that we're going to cover in this class. The first type is called in the round, okay, and that's a three-dimensional sculpture meant to be viewed from all sides. So this is like what we would imagine a sculpture walking up to this sculpture here. We could walk all the way around it, right? See it from 360 view. And then the next one is called relief sculpture. And that's a sculpture that projects from a flat surface. So if we look at the second picture example, these have a flat back to them, but they kind of protrude out from that flat piece. We also have kind of two categories for relief sculpture. We have high and low. This would kind of probably be technically like a low relief. This one here is getting a little closer to high relief. The difference is that low relief is only barely coming out from the flat surface. High relief would be like massively coming out. So if we think about like mounting deer heads or mounting animals like that, that would be more like high relief because it's really coming off of that flat surface. Okay. The next ones, these are just going to go right in order for those sculpting techniques. So number 1 is cutting, number 2, carving, 3, attaching, 4 is folding, and 5 is bending, and the last one is modeling and constructing. So these are all just different ways that you can manipulate materials to get them to form into your sculpture. Okay, so we think of cutting, the action of cutting something. You guys know this. Carving, you're just cutting and cutting into the surface of the material. Okay, attaching is fastening and joining something together. Folding, it means that you're bending like over itself or over another part that covers another piece. And then bending, that's like shaping or forcing something into a curve or an angle. And then modeling is to build or erect. I don't expect you guys to know those specific definitions, but you should be able to identify them and be able to use them when you build your sculpture, okay? And then a couple other terms that we just need to talk about with this unit that I'm not necessarily going to assess you on, but they're just a review, okay, is we should know the difference now between two-dimensional and three-dimensional. Taking a square and turning it into a cube. And that's the idea here between that, taking a 2D project or plan project and building it into a 3D project. Okay. And then proportion, we've already talked about with our principles. So it's a size relationship to the whole. So proportionally, the head of the sculpture is large and the neck is long and the legs are short. So we're just doing a size comparison. Okay. The last two, we've talked about this with space. That's an element that we have. So positive space and negative space. When you work on your sculpture, you may want to think about how it could change. So for example, the black area here is the positive space, the white is the negative, but as it works its way down, they actually switch. The white area becomes the positive and the black becomes the negative. So you could maybe incorporate something like that into your project as well. Okay, so that's just a very quick review of our terms there. And then I'm just going to scoot this down here so you guys can see. This is what we should have written in so far for our notes. And then just on the bottom here, you guys have a little bit left on your notes. It says sculpture materials includes but not limited to found objects, cardboard, toilet paper, water, glue, etc. So really Sculpture can be made just about out of anything. I mean, I could take these colored pencils here on my desk and I could build a sculpture out of colored pencils. I've seen artists do it out of trash or cardboard or clothes even. So there's a lot of different things. For our project, we are actually going to be working with toilet paper and water and cardboard. So you are allowed to build an armature out of cardboard and tape to begin with, and then we're going to cover it up with toilet paper sculptures. So that's where we're going to transition to now that we're done with our notes. So that is the video that is linked into that document covering toilet paper sculptures.